Hey, fellow engineers, it's me, Mario, and today we're gonna talk again about Barrage and about Germany to wrap up our rankings, analysis, whatever, of the four nations of the Barrage base game box. We're gonna talk about Netherlands another day. So Germany is right now, in my opinion, the weakest one out of the base four nations. We're gonna see why, we're gonna see why it can be strong, why it's not that strong, and things like that. As always, let's start with the weaknesses, I would say. So, the biggest weakness of Germany is that it doesn't have a mech income on the second column. When I started playing Barrage years ago, and for even probably 1 year or 2 years after the release, I was pretty much convinced that USA was the weakest nation because they didn't have coins under the second column. After a few more years, I'm pretty sure that almost every top player would agree that the mech income is the most important one early on, and Germany doesn't have one. So that's a big handicap actually, and it's, I would say, the biggest weakness that Germany is facing in most games. So none of the classic openers can work on round one because they don't have the mech income. A second weakness is that the elevation fourth column bonus, it's probably the worst one out of all. I think it's the worst one even considering the Netherlands. Like 2 victory points and 2 energy shifts is really bad. 2 energy shifts can matter every now and then, but as I've already discussed, under the Italy fourth column of the elevation line bonus, you don't really want these energy shifts under the elevations. You want them under the conduits, like a bit like Netherlands, but especially a bit like France's fourth column bonus. Just because normally when you're going for tall dams, you don't really need a PT energy shifts. You don't need 4 and you don't even need 2. So this is another big weakness. And the third big weakness is actually the third powerhouse. Now, back in the days, I considered Germany's third powerhouse the second best, just right after France's one. And now I consider it just a nudge better than USA's third one. Why is that? Because the setup required to make it work properly is really big. I would say that most of the time, this third powerhouse power works as a worse Italy's third powerhouse power. So by that I mean that most of the time you're gonna have a tall dam, and you're gonna use whatever other dam you've got with a bit of water to produce from it and gain maybe like 4 energy or something, especially if it's not a tall dam. Now, the ceiling is way higher than Italy's one, because if you can actually set up a self-feeding system, the most likely one is Basin 1 into Basin 8, you can actually get a good leverage out of it. You can produce first from the one on the bottom, get like 9 energy plus whatever bonus you have going for it, and then you can produce from the top one, still getting something like 10 energy, maybe even more out of it, so that you can actually fulfill a decent contract out of it. The thing is, even though the ceiling is high, the setup is very demanding. So you either need a self-feeding system with the right contract to use from the second production, with enough water to make both of them work, and even if you have a self-feeding system, you have to start producing from the bottom dam if you want to properly use the water from the top one. Which makes it very, very, very difficult to fulfill national contracts from the top one. So the setup is very demanding, and most of the time the effect is going to be in line with Italy's third powerhouse, but it requires a bit of water too. So I don't think this powerhouse power is strong, actually. I think it's average, probably at best. I think it can be considered just below Italy's one, just because Italy's one is very good regardless. It's gonna work most of the time. And the last point for which this power is not amazing is that it doesn't work with the fourth powerhouse. So normally in Barrage, most of the time I would say, if you're going for 3 powerhouses, you normally have enough incentives to go for all 4 of them, because you're not going for a low powerhouses game which requires just like 2 of them and 2 big systems. You probably have powerhouse 1 or powerhouse 2 tiles, or there's a powerhouse scoring bonus, so you want all 4 of them out. I think it's pretty rare that you just want 3 of them out. And the fact that this power doesn't work with the third one, with the fourth one, is actually, it sucks quite a bit. So it's not a bad power by itself, but it's not a strong one for sure. That said, let's talk about Germany's strengths. The biggest strength of all is the fourth column base income. 2 max is just incredibly good. Having 2 max at the same time early enough in the game matters a lot, especially if you're playing with the Lee Water Project expansion, which is also what makes the second column bonus even better. It's already the best one in the base game, but it's by far the best one when you're playing with the expansion. And this one is the main strength of Germany, which makes it so that I would say that in the great majority of games with Germany, you really want to rush 4 bases out and get 2 elevations out. That way you can have 3 victory points, which are like okay, 2 max and 3 coins, which is a pretty strong income early on in the game. You can get it by round 2 if you have wildcard 1. Sometimes with base 1, but with base 1 is very difficult. We'll see why shortly. So this is the main strength of Germany, in my opinion. And there's also a weird strategy revolving around the fourth conduit. It's a conduit rush strategy. I think I made a commentary on a Germany base rush strategy on my channel, so you might want to check it out. But it works only in some very specific condition. I just ended up second in a very good game against 500 plus ELO players, and I lost against Leslie. So I would say that I'm justified to be able to get in the second spot. It's a very fun strategy. I'm not sure it's a strength, because again, it's not that easy to use it. You need a lot of things to go your way. You need to be able to use at least 1 neutral dam for most of the game, and you need to get 1 toll dam in the hills or in the mountains early enough to matter. So most of the time you just go 1 base, 2 elevation for conduits, or even 2 bases, 1 elevation for conduits or something like that. But this one again is by far the main plan, which is why I think that Germany is probably the most rigid nation out of the basic 4 ones. Just because really you need to go to 4 bases and 2 elevations, otherwise you're not having a good game. You don't want to go for 4 elevations. It's something that I see people do a lot of the time, because sometimes with Germany being not that strong, you might start the game in the first position with Germany and you might get elevation 1 and you might go for a lot of elevations. I would actually say that that's not what you should do. You should still try to get 4 bases out ASAP. And sometimes again it can work with 4 conduits, but I would say that it's a very rigid nation. While Italy is more flexible, and even USA, I would say that it's more flexible. USA is good as long as you can ignore the conduit line, basically. But with Germany, using the conduit line, it's very tricky, so I would suggest not to go for it unless you're experienced enough to try it out. You really need also to leverage that spin income under the second conduit, which is another part that can be difficult with Germany actually in the early game. So there's that. I chose to show you this game that I had. I'm not gonna show you the whole game, but I'm gonna show you why I think this combination is very strong, because I think that Adler, out of the top contenders, the top contenders being, of course, Leslie if you're playing with the expansion, Krylov and Mahiri Sekibo, and sometimes even Jill can be, I think, a top tier operative. But with Adler, I think Germany, this is like a match made in heaven, especially if you can secure the wildcard 1 tile, because the main issue again with Germany is that it doesn't have a mech income in the early game. So even though Germany loves to go for bases, it's actually very difficult to do so without a mech income, because yes, you can build 2 bases in the plains. In some very weird games, you might even get 3, but I would say that that's not something you can count on. And you need more mechs, more brown mechs to place the other bases. And with Adler, that's so easy. You're gonna get 2 bases in the plains, maybe, if you want to, if you feel like. And then you can build plains up in the hills and in the mountains. And it works really well, because once you unlock this income, it doesn't matter anymore if the elevations are more expensive in the mountains, and it doesn't even matter that you need high-level conduits, because you're gonna have them. It's gonna be very easy. So I think that Adler is one of the best operatives for Germany by far. In this game in particular, I was able to secure both the wildcard tile and this work, which made it so that I was able to go for 5 bases on round 2, which is possible, I think, only with Germany and Adler. I think it's very hard otherwise to justify that, because you need Adler to build the 3rd base on round 1 in the hills, most of the time, or on the mountains, and it's very hard to recover from the 2 max loss with other countries. It might be possible with France too, of course. France can do pretty much whatever it wants to do, but with Germany it works pretty well. So I would say that that's a good match, and I'm already showing you all the good matches. Like wildcard 1 is good, sometimes base 1 can work. The biggest problem with base 1 is that you really need to get 2 spots in the lower basins in the plains, which is not something you can be sure you're gonna get, and you will be broke, and you still need 2 more brown mechs to build the 2 other bases. So it's a bit tricky to be able to make it work out with base 1, but sometimes it's possible. I would still suggest not to go for base 1, but Germany is probably the nation that might want base 1 the most out of all of them, just because getting to 4 bases is so important. This work also works very well with Germany, in my opinion, because it takes you closer to the 4th base, and once you get the 4th base, this cost in max is negligible, and it works pretty well with the plan that you would still like to get, which is build 2 planes and elevation, and then on the next round build another elevation, get the coins, and build the 2 other bases. It's something that if you can pull it off, it works really well. So this work works very well, and if you get to unlock this income, actually the 2 elevation external work is incredibly good for you, as it is the free level 4 conduit for 3 grays. So once you get this one, let's just say that the good external works should be easy to get for you. So it's something you actually should plan on to get. I wouldn't say that there's any of these that works really well, but sometimes Robot Factory can work decently well with Germany, helping Germany get enough mechs. It's not a plan I would recommend most of the time, but I did it in some games and it worked pretty well. So I would say that we can already wrap it up for Germany. I don't think that there are other notable things to say about the different operatives. Yeah, I would say that that's all. It's a nation with a rigid game plan that can be very strong if you take the main path, but otherwise it's very tricky to make work. Alright, That's it. See you next time. Marius out. Bye bye.